Chronicles of a Gooner. Like and subscribe. Chronicles of a Gooner. Harry Symeou time. Arsenal. Come on, you Gunners. Arsenal. Chronicles of a Gooner.
It's North London Derby Day. Welcome back to the Chronicles of a Gooner. We are live on YouTube. A big hello to everybody that will be listening to this back on Apple, Spotify, or the likes. Thank you so much for being here on this cold, wet, windy, and miserable Sunday morning. But you know what? The weather doesn't matter today because it's all about what is going on at Emirates Stadium, where there promises to be a red hot atmosphere. The Gunners with a huge opportunity to extend their lead at the top of the Premier League after results yesterday went our way in terms of what Manchester City and Liverpool did. Yes, people can talk about Chelsea and their victory at Burnley and what it means in terms of them closing the gap or leapfrogging Manchester City into second place and all the rest of it. But listen, let me just say, I ain't worried about Chelsea, not at this stage, not at this moment in time. And even if the unthinkable was to happen and they were to beat us, I say unthinkable, it's not unthinkable really. But even if we were to go to Stamford Bridge next week and get beat, now obviously that's not great and that's not a good result. And it's certainly not the result that we're after. I still don't look at Chelsea as a side who I believe to be capable of picking up enough points between now and the end of the season to be serious title challengers and serious title contenders. The only two teams that I was worried about going into the season and the only two teams I'm still worried about right now, or maybe one of them's kind of fallen away now in terms of Liverpool, but the only two teams I was ever really worried about were Manchester City and Liverpool. They're the only two teams that could, in my opinion, be better than us over the course of a season. And Liverpool's woeful run continues. Liverpool's really poor start to the season continues. And I know it's been a difficult campaign for Liverpool so far for a number of reasons. Most notably, the passing of Diogo Jota. I mean, I can't even begin to imagine how difficult that must have been for a group of players to navigate. I think we talked so much about Diogo Jota's family at the time and what they must be going through, and rightly so. Okay, because they'll be going through it a lot worse. But I think what we did at points in the early season, especially, was overlook the impact that was having. And what kind of really brought that to light for me the other day was listening to Andy Robertson talking after the Scotland victory about Diogo Jota. That kind of brought it back to the forefront of my mind in terms of, you know what, this has probably had an impact. But their performances have been really bad, really poor. I mean, even in yesterday's game, Nottingham Forest took the lead through Murillo, and then they added what they thought was a second before the break. And at that point, you're thinking, whoa, Liverpool are up against the ropes here. And then you get the VAR intervention, which I think was wrong, by the way. I wasn't convinced that came off of the player's arm. I thought it came off sort of this area, the sort of top left side of his chest. Or if it did come off the arm, it was very high up on the arm, which I'm not sure in today's age is deemed as a handball anyway. But I thought at that point, VAR decision goes Liverpool's way. They're probably going to turn this around in the second half. They're going to come out all guns blazing. Because I watched the first sort of 20, 30 minutes of that game, and I was thinking it's only a matter of time before Liverpool score. They had Forest pinned back. They were creating chances. There were a lot of blocks being made. Elliot Anderson was outstanding at the base of that Nottingham Forest midfield. He was making block after block after block. And I thought to myself, this level of pressure, it's going to tell eventually. But then Nottingham Forest go and score. And then they score again straight after the break. And Liverpool just did not have the fight to drag themselves back into it. And the third goal was the icing on the cake. And it turned what was a shock result into a really embarrassing result for Liverpool. To lose 3-0 at home against anybody spells trouble. But to lose 3-0 at home to a team that were in the relegation zone and still are, I think, in the relegation zone, who have had to sack managers twice already this season. I think that was kind of Liverpool essentially for the time being hitting rock bottom. And I watched that, and obviously as an Arsenal man, it was good because you look at it and you go, well, that's Liverpool hopefully done and dusted in terms of their threat and their ability to mount a title challenge. And then you come on to the City game at 5:30, And I said this on TalkSport the other day, and I'm pretty sure I said this on the pod as well. This was always a potential banana skin of a game for Manchester City. I know Newcastle haven't had a good start to the campaign. I know Newcastle haven't been their usual selves. But if at the start of the season you're looking at fixtures that you're hoping your rivals are going to drop points in, Newcastle away is one of those that you would write down, isn't it? Like, regardless of their form at any given time, Newcastle away is a tough place to go. It's why, and I definitely said this the other day, it's why we celebrated our victory there so much. Not only was it really, really important in terms of the points, but it was really, really important in terms of making a statement and showing the world that even going to a place like that, where we were losing, where we were up against it, we can find the way. And that instilled a lot of belief and a lot of confidence in Arsenal, which they then took on and proceeded to pick up more points. And obviously, before the international break, we've gone away to Sunderland and we've dropped points. And Manchester City have obviously beaten Liverpool. And that's led a lot of people to believe that City are right hot on our heels, and rightly so. And then they're going to lose again. And I'm starting to get into this headspace whereby I'm starting to feel like none of the teams around us are good enough to consistently put points on the board. Like, to the point where, yes, we're going to drop points, but do we have to worry so much about dropping points as long as it's only here or there? Because not only do we have to drop points, those teams need to be good enough to capitalize on that. And at this moment in time, it looks like they're not. Manchester City had a really good opportunity yesterday. Some people would have told you Liverpool were out of the title race before yesterday's football. I would have disagreed with that. I'd say they're out of it for the time being now, though. But Manchester City, had they gone to St. James's Park yesterday and won, they would have closed the gap on us at the top to just a solitary point. With the North London derby coming up today, and then we've got Bayern in midweek before we go to Chelsea away, who have hit a bit of form, who have obviously climbed up the table and who are on our heels as well. And you'd be looking at that if you're Man City and you're thinking, well, they could well drop points in one of these two games. And we might drop points in one of those two games. League games I'm talking about. But with City losing, we can potentially draw one of those games now, and it's not the end of the world. Now, I'm not sitting here, by the way, saying that I'll be happy with a draw in today's North London derby. With a far superior side, with a far more settled side. Yes, we've got injury problems, but so have they. They've got a ton of injury problems. I feel like Arsenal are better equipped to deal with their injury problems. And so today, for me, there are no excuses. Go out there, go and win the North London derby, create that feel-good factor again that I'm not saying disappears during an international break, but certainly dilutes during an international break, because you've got lots of time to like stew on things and think about things. If what you saw yesterday wasn't motivation enough as an Arsenal player to go out there and make sure and ensure that you get the job done today, then I don't know what to say to you. There have been years gone by where we felt that nothing went our way, that things hadn't aligned, that, whatever we did, we kind of needed to be not just good, but exceptional. And sometimes we fell short of exceptional, and other sides were able to do that. I mean, Liverpool only lost 2 games last season, in the Premier League. Manchester City the year before went on this unbelievable run. You look at the Premier League table now, and Liverpool, 12 games in, down in 11th, and they've lost 6. They've already lost 3 times the amount of games in the Premier League, 12 games in, than they did last season throughout its entire campaign. So they're not at it. We've been there or thereabouts for quite some time now, for a good 2-3 seasons. Well, there is a benefit to being consistent over a long period of time. And that benefit is that, A, you're in the mix, but B, if someone else falls off, but you maintain your level, you should be very well positioned to go on and win the damn thing. Now, it's early, and I've said many, many times before, you don't crown anybody champions in November. And I'm not doing that. I promise you I'm not doing that. But my God, today has the potential to be huge. It has the potential to be huge. Because if we go and we win, against Spurs, if we then draw at Chelsea next week, it's not the end of the world at all. Because we'd extend our lead over City by 3 points. And then if we drew and they won, they'd eat back into that but we still have extended the lead from where we were prior to the international break. Does that make sense? So we're in a really, really good position. Really, really good position. Today's game is huge, and we are going to, of course, start looking ahead to that game. In terms of Manchester City's defeat at Newcastle, I've talked a lot about the Liverpool game just there and Liverpool's problems and woes. Listen, I felt, and I've got to be honest about this, because I always say that the tribalism in football prevents us from calling out poor decisions when we should, which provides a cover for those making the poor decisions under which they can hide. Okay, because Man City fans will be livid with some of the decisions yesterday, but everybody else who wants them to fail will be sitting there going, "Oh yeah, but you know, whatever in it." Like, and that means that there's no real accountability for the mistakes that are made. Let me be completely honest with you, right? I thought Manchester City had a case for at least one penalty, if not two. The challenge on Phil Foden from Fabian Schär was really, really late. Watched it back many, many times, and I feel like if there was contact, it was minimal. And so I can probably understand why the officials took the decision they did on that one. The Chow handball, that's a clear handball for me. His arm is raised like that. It's not a natural position. That for me is a handball. And so Manchester City should have had a penalty there. And then obviously Newcastle, who break the deadlock on 63 minutes, can only hold on to that lead for about 5 minutes before Ruben Dias goes down the other end and scores a bit of a messy goal for Manchester City. And then obviously Barnes on 70 puts Newcastle straight back in front. And there was this lengthy VAR check. Looking at the pictures, I thought there was an offside in the build-up. I thought there was an offside. I was convinced. But obviously the semi-automated offside system found something different. Now, I'm not going to cry for Manchester City, but what I am going to say is this. If we are going to use this semi-automated system that at times does not necessarily marry up with what the naked eye is telling us, and I'm not saying I don't trust the technology. I think we've all got to accept that that technology is what we're going to use, and you go with that, and that's that, okay? And no arguments, no debates. But what needs to happen is that image that we got maybe 5 minutes down the line after the goal had been given, where we can see why the player's onside, who's playing him on, etc., etc. I think those images need to be ready quicker, and they need to be presented along with the decision. You can't have this delay, okay? Because people will say, I'm not saying this is the case, but people will say, well, that image has just been made up now to suit the decision and the argument. That's what the conspiracy theorists and those who have felt hard done by will probably come out with. So I just think we need to be a bit better with that. We need to be a bit better with that. Listen, it's gone our way. I'm not going to complain too much, but I'd be a hypocrite if I didn't call out what I thought to be some wrong decisions in that game. I'm not saying the offside was wrong because, as I say, I trust that technology. But what I am saying is you've got to be quicker in producing the evidence. And on the other two, well, I think Man City have a strong case to have at least been awarded one spot kick. And if they get one of those at 0-0, I think the game is a very, very different game. So we've been a little bit fortunate there, I have to say. Newcastle have been fortunate there as well. Let's have a look at what you guys are saying in the live chat before we move on to focus solely on our game today. It is a big old game, big old game. I'll bring you some instant reaction to the game from Emirates Stadium a little bit later on. So make sure that you've got your notifications turned on. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel if you're not already, and make sure that, of course, you are subscribed on all the audio platforms, because we'll bring you that on there as well, hopefully. Don't forget, like, subscribe, all the rest of it. Check us out on Patreon too. There'll be a Patreon special piece built around this game tomorrow. So make sure you're signed up over there, patreon.com/The Chronicles of Aguna. Thank you to everybody who's already signed up. Thank you to those who have joined in the last few days. Thank you to everybody who reached out after the episode that I put out on Patreon the other day, talking about the pod in the last year and sort of describing some of the challenges that I've faced, because I think it's important that when people like yourselves are kind enough to support and kind enough to be a part of this, that that I'm transparent with you. So I wanted to do that. And I've had some lovely messages off the back of that. So thank you all so much. Okay. What was I going to get into? Oh, yeah, the comment section. That's it. I had to think that for a second. The Geordie Guna says, good morning, Chronicles of a Guna family. We need 3 points at all costs today. These City slip-ups with us playing the next day won't happen too often. We have to capitalise. Junior Gunner says Liverpool are done in the race. Caps says Chelsea are creeping back into the mix. But you know what, with Chelsea, they did this last season, didn't they? They had a spell. There was a period of time where people were inclusive of them in the title discussions. But you never really believed that they had the squad to go the full distance. And that's kind of how I feel now. Like, credit to Chelsea, credit to Maresca. It looks really good where they are. And, you know, they've got an opportunity to really make a dent in our lead and make a statement as well if they can beat us at Stamford Bridge next weekend. But does anybody truly deep down believe at this stage on the 23rd of November that Chelsea have what it takes? I don't, because I don't believe that they've got the squad. I don't think they've got a good enough goalkeeper. I don't think they've got a good enough backline. I think there's a few clear, glaring issues in that Chelsea side, I beg your pardon, that haven't been addressed. So, no. Z Gold says Liverpool is so poor. They look like United under Ten Hag, Harry. A guy with a view says we didn't think Liverpool's luck would last in the season. It did, so we can't dismiss Chelsea. Yeah, Liverpool are a much better team than Chelsea, man. Like, just Van Dijk, Salah, you know, just those two alone are head and shoulders above anything that Chelsea have got. Cole Palmer's probably the standout Chelsea player that you would point to. A lot of people have been quite sort of positive about Moises Caicedo this season, but Cole Palmer's out because he stubbed his toe or whatever, and he's going to miss the game against us, which is another bit of fortune that's maybe gone our way, which maybe just suggests that things are starting to align for us. I don't know. Let's take this one from Apex Rhubarb. Is that the screen name? Yesterday was a great day, perhaps a seed of change we need to now take truly advantage of. Yeah. Fingers crossed, guys. Fingers crossed. Right. Let's take a really, really brief pause. And when we come back, let's talk about Arsenal's 11. Let's try and figure out who's fit, who's not, and all the rest of it. Let me just be clear in saying that I don't have any insider information on this, but I've figured out in my own mind who I think the most likely returnees are. So we'll get into that right after this short pause. We're going to be gone for a matter of seconds, so don't go anywhere. You're listening to the Chronicles of a Gooner.
You're listening to the Chronicles of a Gooner. Like and subscribe.
That's right. Like and subscribe. Welcome back to the Chronicles of a Gooner with me, your host, Harry Symeou. We're covering off the North London derby today. Kickoff in a matter of hours. Arsenal taking on Tottenham at Emirates Stadium this afternoon. The sun's just peeking through the clouds as well here in North London. I mean, it'll probably last all of about 5 minutes, but yeah, we'll see. Okay, so how are we feeling about this one? Well, always there's kind of a unique feeling that the derby provides, I think. I've been nervous in recent years about games against Liverpool, about games against Manchester City, and they have, you could argue, had more riding on them than this, or any North London derby in recent history for that matter. But there's something special about this game, right? I've grown up, I've been raised in North London, right? There's North London, you know, it's not one of those cities, London, and North London is not one of those areas where it's everybody supports one team and there's just a handful of people that support the other team. Because whatever you say about Tottenham Hotspur, they have a huge fan base. They do. They do. I would say they've got a bigger fan base in the UK than Chelsea. And that sounds wild given Chelsea's successes over the last 2 decades. But that's the reality of it. When you live in North London, you will come across way more Tottenham fans than maybe people from outside of London would imagine. That's just the way it is. They're a big old football club. They do fill out their ground, 60,000 every single week, even when they're not performing particularly well. So big club, no doubt about that. But when you're brought up in this part of the world, they are everywhere you go. Okay, they're everywhere you turn. Okay, you speak to 3 people, one of them will probably be a Spurs fan. Okay, I've got relatives that are Spurs fans. I've got family, very close family, that are Spurs fans. And it's more than just a game for that reason. Like, if we lost today or if we drop points today, it won't just be the disappointment of what we've witnessed on the day and what that means in terms of the title race and the wider implications. It's the nonsense that I got to deal with after that. And that's why this game always means a little bit more. Generally speaking, I've been quite confident going into the home games. And I feel like that today, I've got to say. But with that opportunity, the opportunity that's presented itself off the back of some of those results yesterday, there does sort of come this added desire to win and this added desire to make the point and go and do what we need to do so that we capitalize on that. And that can add just a few extra nerves on top of the nerves that already exist just by default based on the fact it's Derby Day. So look, I'm not going into it convinced that it's going to be easy, but I am going into it with a lot of belief and believing that we can go and win. And I think Arsenal this season at least have shown that we can take advantage of these types of scenarios. We can capitalize when necessary, when needed. We can dig out results when the pressure's on. And there were too many instances in the last couple of seasons where that wasn't the case, where someone would drop points and we would drop points, or we'd really need to kind of stay within touching distance and we'd fail, we'd fall short. So I'm certainly more confident than not confident. But at the same time, I feel like it's one of those games that is a bit of a banana skin. It's a little bit dodgy. And I'll tell you why. Under Ange Postecoglou, I'd be fully confident that we're going to go out there and we're going to blow them away. And even if they attack us and even if they score, we will find a way to sort of hit them at the other end, and we will score enough goals to win the football match ultimately. With Thomas Frank, watching the way he has set up his team in some of the bigger games, I'm going to say that I'll be surprised if he doesn't set up with a back five. Now, if he sets up with a back five to frustrate, to make it difficult for us, and they're successful in doing that for the first 60 or so minutes of the game, that's when the nerves start to kick in. And that's when this issue of having some attacking players unavailable becomes more problematic. Because in a game like that, you need to be able to change it. You need to be able to vary things up, because clearly if you get to 60 minutes without doing a great deal in terms of creating, then it means that the opposition have found a way of nullifying you in that mode, if you like. So you need to change the mode. You need to bring in other players. You need to bring in different types of threat. And that's led to a lot of Arsenal fans knowing that, because we've seen it many, many times before, sort of being quite nervous about who is fit and who's not going into this game. Now, Mikel Arteta was very, very tight-lipped in the press conference on Friday, as you'd expect. He didn't give anything away. The only things he kind of gave away were things that I think we could have all assumed, and things that we kind of knew without officially knowing, if that makes sense. So, for example, we all know that Gabriel's out. Okay, done. Gabriel Jesus, there's some people who've suggested that he could be in the squad, myself included, because it sounds like he's been involved in training, not just on his own, but with the group for much longer than we thought. But Mikel Arteta said something in the press conference, which was that they wanted to expose him to some game time first. So does that mean that he's not going to play? Look, that one was always kind of touch and go. But we have no idea if Gyökeres will be available. We have no idea if Martinelli will be available. We have an idea that Madueke could be. That's one of the ones that I think people are feeling a little bit more confident in. Odegaard could be, because we heard that he's returned to full training. Havertz, no way, based on what Julian Nagelsmann said the other day. And then obviously Jesus as well, in terms of attacking players. As I've just explained what Mikel said on that. If we could get 2-3 of these players back, not necessarily to start the game, but just to contribute in some way if required. Like if we're winning 2-3-0 and Odegaard's on the bench or Gyökeres is on the bench, you don't need to risk him. Unless you want them to get 20 minutes at the end to kind of build up their match fitness. Unless you want to do that, you won't have to. But to have those guys available to us and on the bench, that's massive, because not only does it give us alternative options and allow us to change things and shake it up if necessary, but it's also bloody worrying for Tottenham, man. Because if you're an opposition side, right, and you get to like 60 minutes and you're blowing out of your backsides because all you've done is chase shadows all game and have to be super tuned in and focused at all times. And then you look at the substitutes bench and there's Odegaard, Madueke, Gyökeres, just to name three, that could all come on and potentially change the game. And then those substitutions get made. You think, oh my God, they're just relentless. Look at this. And we've been in that position before where we've had a really weak bench that had zero chance essentially of changing the game. I haven't even mentioned like Nwaneri, who's probably going to be on the bench as well. Like we've been in a situation where we've looked at our bench and gone, there's just nothing here. And then played like a City. And it's been like, oh, well, there's Erling Haaland. Not really been his day. But you know what? Let's bring on Julian Alvarez, for example. You know, it's not really been Jeremy Doku's day. Let's bring on Jack Grealish. Like, and you look at that and you go, oh, like, how do you deal with that? How do you cope with that? How do you fight against that level of depth and that level of quality? So I think when that team sheet comes out, if there's a couple of names that we're maybe not expecting or not sure about, included even on the bench, I think that sends a real message. I think psychologically that could be big. Thomas Frank knows how to set up a team. Thomas Frank is not Ange Postecoglou. He knows how to set up a team to defend and how to frustrate. He knows how to set up a team that will be dangerous from set pieces. Tottenham have scored a lot of set piece goals this season. And obviously without Gabriel, we're still good, but we're not as formidable in that department as we would be with him included. You're going to see long throws. You're going to see all of these things because do you know what I like about Thomas Frank? Thomas Frank, and this will be because of his background. This will be because he's managed a club like Brentford where the budget wasn't there. You had to find a way of closing the gap between yourselves and some of the bigger teams based on tactics, playing to your strengths, etc., etc. He does not care. He does not care about doing things that are a little bit unfashionable. And I say that, but long throws and set pieces and all of that, it has come back into fashion. And, you know, sometimes I think at the start of this season, the Tottenham fans are giving him a really hard time and it's not always been justified. I was at their game against Man United. I was commentating on that game. I've mentioned it before. And he brought Matthias Tell on to replace Xavi Simons and the whole stadium booed. And a few minutes later, Tell scores a goal. Thomas Frank knows what he's doing. I'm telling you, Thomas Frank is a better coach than Ange Postecoglou. I really do truly and honestly believe that. And so Tottenham are not going to be the soft-centered side that we have faced in recent seasons under Ange Postecoglou. They might not be as dangerous in attack. They might not be on the ball as much. They might not be as possession-focused. They might not be as brave, but they will be stubborn and they will be difficult to break down. That's what you can expect from today's game. Now, sometimes in these games, something can happen really early on in the game, and it can, you know, send the whole sequence of events into complete and utter chaos, and you just don't know what's coming next. But if I had to predict how this game is going to go, I would say it's going to be a lot of Arsenal possession. It's going to be Arsenal trying to kick down the door, and it's going to be Tottenham trying to, for as long as possible, stand firm while looking to sort of take advantage of any counter-attacking opportunities or set-piece opportunities that they can generate. That's how I see this game going. In terms of the players coming back, I think Odegaard will be in the squad. I think Madueke will be in the squad. And I've got a feeling that Gyökeres will be in the squad as well. The squad, not the team. That's what I would predict in terms of potential returnees. Let's have a look then at what the lineup might look like today, taking all of that into consideration and into account. So I'm pretty sure it's going to be David Raya in goal, right? You know, he's just been fantastic for such a long time. You wouldn't even dream of changing that. Quite a lot was made of Jurrien Timber's injury, picked up on international duty, but I think he's going to be absolutely fine. It looked like he cut his knee or something. He did play the rest of the game, so no real concerns there. Saliba will play at right centre-back. At left centre-back, who do we go with? This is one of the questions. I think Calafiori will just about be okay to start at left back. I don't like the idea of changing multiple components of our defence. So as long as he's okay, you play him, give him a break in midweek, play Lewis Skelly against Bayern, and you go again. I think that Mikel's going to go with Nketiah at left centre-back. I think Mosquera is in a lot of people's minds and is the primary candidate for a lot of people because of how well he's done when he's come in. But I just think Mikel really likes Nketiah. He's talked him up a lot. it sounds like he really kind of believes in him and trusts in him. And it feels like the only reason he hasn't played more was because of those injury issues and the way that he needed to kind of build himself up and get to a point and get to a level where he could play a role to a really high standard. The fact that he's a left-footed player, I think, works in his favor here. The fact that he's a left-footed player means that we don't have to change the way we play out, the patterns, the angles of our passes. I think that familiarity that comes with having a player that plays with the same foot, I think that is probably not the only factor, but one of the things that will give Piero Hincapié the edge here over Christian Mosquera, who, let's be honest, if he does miss out, will feel really hard done by, and rightly so, because whenever he's come in, for me, he's been really, really solid, really, really sound. He made a slight little mistake at Newcastle, and people sort of jumped on his back. Other than that, I can't think of another moment where I've looked at Christian Mosquera and gone, I'm not comfortable with you playing there. And again, that speaks to our strength in depth, doesn't it? Zubimendi will play at the base of the midfield as he should. We're going to need him against a side that I imagine are going to sit with a low block. And what I really like about Zubimendi, and we saw it in that game a few weeks back. What game was it? It's gone out of my head, where he scored a couple of goals. We had glimpses of what Zubimendi can do when we're facing a low block against Sunderland, when we were looking for the equaliser and then the second goal, where he just gambles that little bit more, goes that little bit further forward. He'll have Declan Rice alongside him in the midfield. And I'd imagine that Eberechi Eze will continue in the 10 role, because if Odegaard is back, I don't think he'll be fit enough to start the game. Will Arteta push him back in, given that he's the captain? I wouldn't put it past Mikel Arteta, but it's not what I would do. Up front, it looks like it's going to be Mikel Merino, because, again, if Victor Gyökeres is back, how fit is he going to be? And is he going to be able to start the game? I probably wouldn't risk that. Saka will undoubtedly play from the right-hand side. And from the left, it's got to be Leandro Trossard, or Leandro Bossard, as I've been calling him lately, because he's been in outstanding form. Really, really outstanding form. I think he's been one of our better players over the course of the last couple of months. So that's the team I think is going to start. But hopefully we are boosted by 2 or 3 of those injured players returning to the squad at the very least. And if they can play a 15, 20-minute cameo role towards the end, that could be huge for us. And just having those options will obviously make us and Mikel Arteta feel a lot better about our prospects and about our chances, of course, today against Tottenham. So, yeah, that's the team I would probably go with. And that's the team I think that Mikel is going to go with from the start as well. Right, let's get some of your thoughts. Let's get some of your questions from the live chat before we wrap up on this North London Derby Day special episode of the Chronicles of a Gooner pod. Don't go anywhere. Like, subscribe, all of that stuff. Do that if you're with us on YouTube. It's really, really important. Hype the video as well. If you're listening to us on Apple or Spotify, please leave us a review, because that's really, really important too. And you can check us out on Patreon. Patreon.com/Chronicles of a Gooner. The QR code in the top corner of the screen will take you to the page. Alternatively, you can click on the link in the description. Right, short pause. When we come back, we're going to take some of your questions to wrap up.
You're listening to the Chronicles of a Gooner. Like and subscribe.
Okay, I got to give you my prediction. I haven't given you my prediction. My prediction is Arsenal 2, Tottenham Hotspur 0. That's what I'm going with. I've been saying all week the famous old 1-0 to the Arsenal, but I feel like we'll bag a second, maybe late on in the game. So that's what I'm going with. Cap says, I thought he'd put Mosquera in due to his pace. Maybe he will. It's just my view on it. Almac says, isn't Hincapié tired from international duty? Maybe, but do you know what? Get through today. Don't play on Wednesday against Bayern. You know, you want to be at a big club like Arsenal, you've got to be able to stomach going on international duty, traveling to the other end of the earth and returning and performing just a few short days later. That's just the way it goes. I disagree with the load that we put on players and the strain that we put on players. Generally speaking, I do. But that's the reality of the situation. He doesn't have to do it every week. AJ Envoy says, Harry, at this stage, how many points would you say we would have to be in front of Chelsea, City and Liverpool for you to say the title's pretty much ours? 20. I just really don't want to fall into that trap of complacency. And I think it's really important that the players don't. I don't think the players will be influenced by the way we talk about it, obviously. And they're professionals. But we've been burnt in recent years, man. We've been burnt before. And we've also seen how things can turn really, really quickly and change really, really quickly. And for that reason, I'm just never comfortable with the idea of crowning someone as champions in November. Like, and I'm even less likely to do that when it comes to my own club, because I really feel the jeopardy and I really feel the potential stress. And can you imagine the stick we're going to get if I start saying, or any of us start saying we've won the league and then we don't? Like, it's not so much that I'm bothered about the stick that you get from the outside world or from other fans or whatever. It's not that can, it's water off a duck's back. But it's more so because I need to protect my emotions. I've said that so many times over the last 2-3 seasons. We need to protect our emotions, and that's what I'm doing. Big hello to Robert. It says, morning, Harry. Message for today. Come on, you effing Reds. Absolutely, mate. Absolutely. Absolutely. Theo says this game will help us to see whether we're the same Arsenal or a different one. So I assume you mean that if we win today, it kind of shows that we're ready to take advantage of the slip-ups of those around us. Whereas if we don't, you may be suggesting that we don't have the mettle to go on and achieve something. I don't know. Tony Fulbrook says that Harry, Spurs have a big weapon up front. His name is City Oliver, not Michael Oliver, but City Oliver. I'm not worried about Spurs, but he does worry me. Look, I've said this before. We kind of touched on this when we sort of first discussed the fact that Michael Oliver had been given this game, and it's the first Arsenal game that he's taken charge of since he incorrectly sent Miles Lewis-Skelly off, and that red card was overturned. Look, if I'm being honest with you, I don't like going into a game with a focus on the referee. And if I'm Mikel Arteta and I even hear, that referenced by anyone in the changing room, I am shutting that down immediately. I'm shutting it down, because for me, that is setting yourself up for distraction, which is in turn setting yourself up for a fall. If we come out of the game and Michael Oliver's given some diabolical decisions against us, of course, I'll be as vocal as everybody else in hammering him and then questioning the decision to give him this game and all the rest of it, right? For sure. But I think it's dangerous to go into a game with the focus on the referee. I think it's really, really dangerous. And I don't want us to be doing that. And I get why fans are worried and anxious about it. But if I'm the manager, if I'm within the confines of Emirates Stadium today or the Sober Realty Training Center in the build up to today's game, I'm not even mentioning that. I'm not even bringing it up, because I don't think it's helpful to sort of overthink about that. I know as fans we're going to say what we're going to say, but as players, I don't think you want to even think about that. How many times is the editing duo going to say, what do you think about Mosquera? Come on, man, you don't need to spam the chat. I think you've written that about 20 times. Bad. I don't think Mosquera will start. That's my prediction, is that Nketiah starts. If Mosquera starts, will I have a problem with it? No, I like Christian Mosquera. I rate him a lot. And that's why I've been saying throughout the duration of this week that while we have got to understand that, yes, without Gabriel, we are weaker and we're not the same, we certainly got the cover. The fact that we're arguing over which one comes into play, that highlights that, doesn't it? And we haven't even talked about White going in at centre-back, or Timber going in at centre-back, or Calafiori going in at centre-back, all of which could happen as well. So, yeah, that's where I'm at on Christian Mosquera. I'd pick Nketiah myself today, but if Mosquera was to play, I'm absolutely fine with it. Absolutely fine with it. Right, guys, do you know what? I'm going to leave it there. I'm going to go and have a nice bit of breakfast with the family, and then I'm going to head down to Emirates Stadium. If you want to listen to the game today, if you're in the London area, it is being broadcast on DAB, so digital radio, BBC London Sport. It's the home of London football. Nick Godwin will be the lead commentator, because you wouldn't want to put me on this game, would you? Of course not. I'd be very unbiased, but it's a station that services London, right? So you got to be fair. So Nick Godwin will be the lead commentator, and then Bradley Allen will be bringing some insight from the Tottenham side of things, brother of Clive Allen, Tottenham legend. Good player and scout in his time as well, Bradley Allen. And I will be bringing the Arsenal perspective on things. Sir Nicholas T says, cheers, Harry. Can I listen in the States? You know what? You might be able to if you go on the BBC Sport website. If you go on the BBC Sport website when the game is live and you go onto that live page and you click watch or listen, you might be, you can select which broadcast, whether it's the 5 live broadcast that you get or the regional one. But I don't know if there is any restrictions because you're in the States, unless you've got something like NordVPN and you can, some sort of VPN service and you can change that. But if you go on the BBC Sport page, click on the live feed for what the game's going on, and then you go to watch and listen, you should be able to find the regional broadcast. And if you do, we'll be there. We'll be there. Okay, I will speak to you all after the game. Thank you so much for joining me on this episode of the Chronicles of a Gooner. Really do appreciate it. Like, subscribe, leave a review, all of that wonderful stuff. Check us out on Patreon, and we'll be back after the game with a bit of instant reaction from Emirates Stadium. Full pod will be with you on Monday morning, but we'll also bring you a Patreon piece on Monday as well. Once we've had time to either sort of get over the buzz and the high, or allow that to come down a notch so we can provide some sensible analysis, or got over some of the pain or sorrow. We'll see how it goes. Catch you all soon. Until the next one, take care of yourselves. Have a wonderful day up the Arsenal.
Chronicles of a Gooner. Like and subscribe. Chronicles of a Gooner. Harry Symeou time. Arsenal. Come on, you Gunners.